The colony ship Prometheus Dawn screamed to the frozen atmosphere of Arati's Prime like a dying star. Inside the cargo bay, Administrator Theron gripped the emergency railing as metal shrieked and tore around him. Red emergency lights painted everything in blood. Hull breach in sections 4 through 9, someone shouted over the chaos. Theron watched the temperature readings plummet on his wrist display. -100 degrees outside. -120. The numbers dropped like stones into dark water. Through the shattered viewport, he could see nothing but white. Endless white ice and howling wind. The impact threw him against the wall. His shoulder cracked hard against metal. Then silence. The terrible, crushing silence after disaster. Theron pulled himself up. His breath came out in clouds of frost. Around him, 23 survivors stumbled through the wreckage. 23 out of 147 souls. He wanted to scream. He wanted to weep. Instead, he activated his command tablet with shaking fingers. "Sound off," he said. His voice came out steady. He hated how steady it sounded. The survivors called out their names. Engineers, medical staff, security officers, a few colonists who got lucky. Theron's eyes found emergency supplies scattered across the broken deck. 3 thermal suits, 5 protein packs, 2 emergency beacons. The calculations ran through his mind like ice water through his veins. The nearest human outpost was 800 kilometers away across a frozen wasteland. The planet's surface temperatures would kill an unprotected human in minutes. The storms that raged above would tear apart anyone caught outside without proper gear. They had 3 thermal suits, 23 people. "We need to assess injuries," Medical Officer Sarah Park said. She was already moving to the survivors, her scanner flickering in the dim light. Theron watched her stop beside the storage lockers, watched her face go pale. She looked at him, just looked, and he knew. Theron found the baby in Locker 7. The impact had torn the section apart, but somehow the emergency pod had held. Somehow the tiny infant inside still breathed. His parents had secured him there before the crash. His parents whose bodies now lay crushed beneath a collapsed bulkhead 30 meters away. The baby couldn't have been more than 6 months old. His face was red from crying. His tiny fists waved in the air. Dark eyes stared up at Theron with complete trust. The name on the pod read Marcus Chun. "He won't survive the journey," Park said quietly. She stood beside Theron, her voice hollow. "Even if we carry him, the cold will kill him before we reach the beacon. Infants can't regulate their body temperature. The suits won't fit him. The thermal blankets will only delay the inevitable." Theron felt something die inside his chest. There has to be a way. There isn't. Park's hands trembled. "I've run the numbers. If we slow down, protect him, we all die. The storms are getting worse. We have maybe 6 hours before the next system hits. If we're caught outside..." She didn't finish. She didn't need to. Around them, the other survivors watched, waiting, judging, hoping he would make the decision so they wouldn't have to. Theron looked at the 3 thermal suits, at the 23 people, at the baby who had no idea his world had just ended. "Find caves," he said finally. "Somewhere sheltered from the wind." They found a cave system half a kilometer from the crash site. The ice walls gleamed like glass in their flashlight beams. It was still freezing, but at least the wind couldn't reach inside. At least the child wouldn't die hearing the screams of the storm. Park wrapped Marcus in every thermal blanket they could spare. She activated a small heating unit beside him, though everyone knew it would only last a few hours. She placed 3 days' worth of formula beside him, though everyone knew he couldn't feed himself. She did these things with tears freezing on her cheeks. "I'm sorry," she whispered to the baby. "I'm so sorry." Theron was the last to leave. He stood at the cave entrance and listened to Marcus cry. The sound echoed off the ice walls, growing louder, more desperate. The baby didn't understand why the warm arms had put him down, didn't understand why no one came when he called. "Sir, we have to go," someone said behind him. Theron turned away. Each step felt like walking through concrete. Behind him, Marcus's cries rose higher, more frantic. The sound followed him across the ice until distance and wind finally swallowed it. In the cave, Marcus Chun screamed into the darkness. His voice grew weaker. His tiny body shivered despite the blankets. The heating unit hummed its temporary comfort. And deep below, something ancient heard his cries. 3 kilometers beneath the frozen surface, Kervith stirred from his meditation. The sound reached him through the ice itself, traveling through crystal and stone like ripples through water. A cry, small, desperate, dying. In 3,000 years of solitude, he had never heard such a sound on this world. Kervith rose from his resting chamber, his massive form unfolding in the darkness. His body was neither flesh nor metal, but something between. Crystalline plates covered his frame, each one glowing with soft blue light. His wings stretched 20 meters from tip to tip. Translucent membranes shot through with veins of living ice. He was beautiful and terrible, ancient and alone. The DRA Zithians had once numbered in the billions across 100 frozen worlds. Now Kervith knew of only 12 others, scattered across the galaxy, each one guarding their chosen planet in eternal isolation. It was their way. It was their burden. They had watched empires rise and fall. They had seen species bloom and die like flowers in spring. They did not interfere. They only observed. But that sound, that tiny, desperate sound. Kervith moved through his sanctuary with fluid grace despite his size. The walls around him were not carved but grown, crystal formations that had taken centuries to shape. Libraries of data crystals lined the corridors, holding knowledge from civilizations that had turned to dust before humans learned to walk upright. He passed them all, following the sound that called to something deep in his ancient heart. He reached the planet's crust in minutes, his body phasing through ice as easily as wind through air. The DRA Zithians had evolved in worlds like this. Ice and stone were no barrier to them. He emerged in a cave system near the surface and felt the bitter cold even he found uncomfortable. The heating unit had died. The thermal blankets had failed. The baby lay motionless in the darkness, his skin blue, his breathing so shallow it barely moved his chest. Kervith approached slowly. He had seen humans before in his long watch of the galaxy. They were young as species went, barely 10,000 years old. But they were remarkable. They spread across hostile worlds with determination that amazed him. They built and fought and loved with an intensity that burned like stars. This one was so small, so fragile. Kervith extended one crystalline talon and gently touched the infant's chest. The child's heart still beat, though slowly, still fighting. Even at the edge of death, this tiny human still fought to live. "Your kind does not surrender easily," Kervith said softly. His voice rumbled like distant thunder, though no one was there to hear. "Even the smallest of you burns with such fierce light." He made his decision in that moment. 3,000 years of non-interference ended with a dying baby's last heartbeat. Kervith gathered the child carefully in his talons and descended back into the deep ice. In his sanctuary, he placed Marcus in a stasis chamber filled with warm liquid that would stabilize his failing body. The child's eyes opened briefly, unfocused, seeing nothing. Then they closed again. For 3 days and nights, Kervith worked. He used technology that humanity would not discover for 1,000 years. He synthesized nutrients that would feed the growing child. He created atmospheric regulators that would keep the temperature perfect for human biology. He grew crystalline implants, no larger than grains of sand, that would help this human body survive in a world never meant for it. On the 4th day, Marcus opened his eyes and cried for food. Kervith felt something he had not experienced in centuries. Joy, pure and simple joy. He fed the infant with formulas synthesized from his own databases on human biology. He held the small creature against his crystalline chest, sharing warmth, and felt the baby relax. Tiny fingers grasped at his talons with surprising strength. "You are far from your home, little one," Kervith said. "Your people left you here to die. Perhaps they had no choice. Perhaps they did. It matters not now. You live. You will continue to live." He carried Marcus through his sanctuary, showing the glowing walls and floating data crystals. The baby stared with wide dark eyes, taking in wonders that no human had ever seen. "I will call you Kaelmar," Kervit decided. In my language, it means flame in the frost, because that is what you are, a small warm light in this endless cold, a life that refuses to be extinguished. Marcus made a small sound, perhaps approval, perhaps simply hunger. Kervit looked at the child and understood that his long isolation had ended. He would teach this human. He would raise him. He would show him what it meant to survive with honor. The last guardian of Varadi's prime was no longer alone. 16 years passed in the ice like water flowing beneath a frozen river. Marcus Chun grew from infant to young man in a world of crystal and light. Raised by a dragon who taught him the secrets of the galaxy. On his 16th birthday, Marcus stood in the training chamber, his breath steady despite the exertion. His body had changed over the years. The crystalline implants Kervit had given him glowed faintly beneath his skin, visible as pale blue lines along his arms and chest. His eyes carried the same glow when he concentrated. Frost formed naturally on his skin in patterns that shifted and moved like living things. He was faster than any normal human, stronger. His body regulated temperature in ways that would make scientists weep with envy. He could survive on the surface of Varadi's prime for hours without protection. But he was still human, still mortal, still alone. Again, Kervit commanded from his observation platform. Marcus launched himself at the training construct, a holographic opponent that moved with impossible speed. He ducked, rolled, struck with precision that came from years of practice. The construct dissolved under his attack. 3 more appeared instantly. Marcus fought them all, his movements fluid and efficient. When the session ended, Marcus collapsed against a crystal wall, sweat freezing on his skin. Kervit descended from his platform, his massive form seeming to flow rather than walk. "You have grown strong, Kael'mar," the dragon said. "Stronger than most humans could ever become." "But still human," Marcus replied. "Still the only one of my kind on this entire planet." Kervit settled beside him, his crystalline body radiating gentle warmth. "You wonder about them. Your people. You always have." Marcus nodded. He had spent 16 years studying humanity through Kervit's vast archives. He knew their history better than most humans alive. He had watched recordings of Earth, of the colony worlds, of the great ships that sail between stars. He had seen humans at their best and worst. "Show me again," Marcus said quietly. "Show me what happened." Kervit's eyes dimmed with sadness, but he activated the holographic display. The cave appeared around them, exactly as it had been 16 years ago. Marcus watched himself as an infant, wrapped in failing blankets, crying into the darkness. He watched the survivors walk away, watched them make the choice that saved their lives and ended his. They had 23 people in 3 thermal suits, Kervit explained, as he had explained 100 times before. The mathematics were cruel, but simple. You would have slowed them down. You would have died anyway. Perhaps they all would have died trying to save you. "I know the logic," Marcus said bitterly. "I've run the calculations myself. But logic doesn't make it hurt less." "No," Kervit agreed. "It does not." Marcus stood and walked to the archive chamber. He pulled up files on human expansion, on the wars they fought, on the colonies they built. Humanity was thriving out there among the stars, growing, spreading, living their lives while he existed in frozen isolation. "Do you regret it?" Marcus asked suddenly. "Saving me? Breaking your people's law of non-interference?" Kervit was quiet for a long moment. "I regret nothing. You have brought purpose to my existence, Kael'mar. You have given me something I did not know I lacked. Family." The word hung in the air between them. Family. Marcus had no blood relatives that he knew of, no human connections. Only a dragon who had chosen to save him when his own species left him behind. "I don't know where I belong," Marcus admitted. "I'm human, but I've never met another human. I've learned from you, but I'm not Derazithian. What am I?" "You are yourself," Kervit said simply. "You are unique. Perhaps that is enough." Marcus was about to respond when an alarm chimed through the sanctuary. He rushed to the communication console, his fingers flying over controls he had learned to operate as naturally as breathing. A signal appeared on the display. A distress call. Human origin. There's a ship, Marcus said, his voice tight with sudden excitement and fear. A human mining vessel. They've crashed on the northern hemisphere. 12 survivors. Life support failing. Kervith moved beside him, reading the data. They have perhaps 6 hours before their oxygen runs out. The nearest human rescue is 3 days away. Marcus stared at the signal. His first chance to meet his own kind. His first opportunity to see if he could connect with the species that had abandoned him. His hands trembled slightly. I have to go, he said. I have to help them. They may not accept you, Kervith warned. You are not like them anymore. You may frighten them. Marcus met his father's ancient eyes. Maybe, but I can't let them die. That would make me no better than those who left me. Kervith nodded slowly. Then we prepare, and we hope your humanity sees past your differences. The ice storm raged across the northern wastes like a living thing, hungry and cold. Marcus moved through it, as if he were part of the wind itself. The crystalline patterns on his skin glowed brighter in the extreme cold, and his eyes shone like blue stars in the white darkness. He had traveled for 3 hours across terrain that would kill any normal human in minutes. The crashed mining vessel lay half buried in a glacier, its hull torn open like a broken egg. Marcus approached carefully, his enhanced hearing picking up voices inside. Frightened voices. Desperate ones. He knocked on the hull. The voices went silent. I'm here to help, Marcus called out. I received your distress signal. Who are you? A woman's voice answered. Cautious. Suspicious. There's no rescue team scheduled. No human outpost within range. I live on this planet, Marcus said. I know that sounds strange, but I can help you. Your oxygen will run out soon. Please let me in. After a long pause, the emergency airlock hissed open. Marcus stepped inside, frost falling from his clothes. The interior lights flickered on, and he found himself facing 12 humans. They stared at him with expressions ranging from shock to horror. Marcus understood why. His eyes glowed with internal light. Crystalline patterns traced across his visible skin like living tattoos. Frost formed and melted on his shoulders in constant motion. He looked human, but also something else. Something other. Were you? A man demanded, raising a plasma torch like a weapon. His name tag read Jenkins. I'm human, Marcus said calmly. My name is Marcus Chun. I was left on this planet 16 years ago when a colony ship crashed. I survived. A woman stepped forward, her captain's insignia clearly visible. She had sharp eyes and gray streaks in her dark hair. I'm Captain Sarah Volkov. You're saying you survived on Varadi's Prime for 16 years? That's impossible. This planet has no human habitation. I had help, Marcus admitted. He pulled out a portable device from his pack, one that Kervith had created, but we can discuss that later. Right now, I need to stabilize your ship's life support. May I? Volkov studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Do it. We have maybe 4 hours of oxygen left. Marcus moved to their damaged systems and connected Kervith's device. The technology was far beyond anything the miners had seen, but it worked. The life support systems hummed back to life. Fresh air began circulating through the ship. Where did you get that technology? Volkov asked, watching him work. From my father, Marcus said simply. He's not human. He's Durazithian. Durazithians are extinct, Jenkins said, his voice dripping with suspicion. Everyone knows that. They died out thousands of years ago. One of them saved my life, Marcus replied. Raised me, taught me. He lives in the deep ice. The miners exchanged glances. Some looked frightened. Others looked disgusted. Jenkins looked angry. So you're saying an alien raised you? Jenkins spat. You've been living with aliens, learning from them, becoming like them? He saved my life when my own species left me to die, Marcus said quietly. There was no anger in his voice, only fact. Volkov held up a hand, silencing Jenkins. Can you guide us to safety? Our ship won't fly again, and the rescue team is 3 days out. I can take you to shelter, Marcus said. A place where you'll be safe and warm, until rescue arrives. But we need to leave now. Another storm is coming, and this one will be worse. They gathered what supplies they could carry. Marcus led them out into the ice, following paths only he could see. The miners struggled with the cold despite their thermal gear. Marcus barely noticed it. As they walked, Volkov fell in step beside him. "Marcus-chun," she said thoughtfully, "there was a colony ship disaster 16 years ago. The Prometheus Dawn. It crashed on Varades Prime. 12 survivors made it to the emergency beacon. They were hailed as heroes. 23 survivors," Marcus corrected softly, "before they decided an infant wasn't worth saving." Volkov's face went pale. "You were that baby, the one they left behind." "Yes. They said you died in the crash, that there was nothing they could do." Marcus looked at her with his glowing eyes. "They lied. To themselves. To everyone. They made a choice, and I understand why. But don't call them heroes for leaving me to freeze." Behind them, Jenkins muttered something about alien lover and contaminated. Marcus pretended not to hear, but his jaw tightened. The storm hit an hour into their journey. Marcus guided them to an ice ridge that provided shelter, but it wasn't enough. The wind howled like a demon, and the temperature dropped even further. Then the frost wraiths came. The frost wraiths emerged from the storm like nightmares made of ice and hunger. They were 3 meters tall, their bodies translucent and shifting, with claws that could tear through steel. They hunted by sensing heat, and 12 terrified humans were like beacons in the frozen darkness. Marcus moved before anyone could scream. He placed himself between the miners and the creatures, his body shifting into a combat stance Kervit had drilled into him for years. The crystalline patterns on his skin flared bright blue, and his eyes blazed with inner light. The first wraith lunged. Marcus ducked under its claws and struck its core with precision, shattering the ice creature into 1,000 fragments. 2 more attacked from different angles. He spun, kicked, moved with speed that seemed impossible. The miners watched in stunned silence as this strange human-not-human fought monsters with his bare hands. When the last wraith fell, Marcus stood breathing heavily, frost covering his arms. "We need to move. Now. Their death cries will attract more." Jenkins raised his plasma torch, pointing it at Marcus instead of the darkness. "How do we know you're not leading us into a trap? How do we know your alien master didn't send those things?" "Put that down," Volkov ordered. "He's not human anymore." Jenkins shouted. "Look at him. Those things in his skin. Those glowing eyes. He's been contaminated. Changed. We can't trust him." Marcus stood very still. "I saved your lives. Twice now. Maybe you're just keeping us alive to deliver to your alien friends," Jenkins said. Several other miners shifted nervously, clearly torn between gratitude and fear. Volkov stepped between them, her voice hard as ice. "Jenkins, stand down. That's an order. He's a threat, Captain. You know it. You see it. He's more alien than human now." Marcus felt something break inside him. 16 years of isolation. 16 years of wondering if he would ever belong with his own kind. And this was his answer. Fear. Suspicion. Hatred. "Fine," he said quietly. "Stay here. Freeze. Die. I won't force you to accept help from something you find disgusting." He turned to walk away. Volkov caught his arm. "Wait. Please. We need you. I need you. Not everyone here is like Jenkins." Marcus looked at the miners. Some met his eyes with gratitude. Others looked away in shame. A few still watched him with fear. "My sanctuary is 3 hours from here," he said finally. "You'll be safe there until rescue arrives. But know this, you'll meet my father, the being who saved me when humans left me to die. If you can't accept that, then yes, you should stay here." They followed him. Even Jenkins, because the alternative was death. Kervitha's sanctuary took their breath away. Crystal chambers glowed with soft light. Technology beyond their understanding hummed quietly in the walls. And at the center of it all, Kervith himself emerged, massive and magnificent and terrifying. The miners backed away instinctively. Volkov stood her ground, though Marcus could see her hands trembling. "Welcome. Kervith said, his voice like distant thunder. "You are safe here. I will repair your injuries and prepare your vessel for departure when rescue arrives." Over the next 2 days, the miners experienced Darizethian hospitality. Medical technology healed injuries that should have taken months to recover from. Food synthesizers created perfect nutrition. The sanctuary maintained ideal temperature and atmosphere. Slowly, fear gave way to wonder. Marcus showed them the archives, the history of species that rose and fell before humanity existed. He showed them what the Darizethians had been and what they had lost. Some miners began to see him differently, not as contaminated human, but as a bridge between worlds. On the 3rd day, the rescue fleet arrived. But it wasn't just a rescue team. It was a military fleet led by Admiral Chun, Marcus's uncle, though neither had known the other existed. The Admiral demanded entry to the sanctuary. When Kervith refused to allow armed soldiers inside, tensions escalated. Marines took positions outside. Weapons charged. A standoff on a frozen world over a boy who shouldn't exist. Marcus walked out alone. He stood in the ice between 2 species, between 2 worlds, and made his choice. 16 years ago, you left an infant to die in a cave, he called out, his voice carrying across the ice. The colony's ship Prometheus Dawn. 23 survivors decided one baby wasn't worth the risk. That baby was me. He transmitted the records to every ship in the fleet. Images of that day. The cave. The choice. The abandonment. Admiral Chen's face appeared on the communication screen. He looked old suddenly. Broken. "Marcus Chun, my brother's son. We thought you died. We had to believe you died." "You chose to believe it," Marcus said, "because the truth was too heavy to carry." The Admiral's hands shook. "What do you want? Revenge? Justice?" "I want you to leave my father alone," Marcus said simply. "Kervith saved me when humanity discarded me. He gave me life, knowledge, purpose. He is not your enemy. And neither am I." Volkov's voice joined the transmission. "Admiral, I've spent 3 days in that sanctuary. The Drazithians have technology centuries ahead of ours. They could have destroyed us or enslaved us millennia ago. Instead, they chose to watch, to wait, to not interfere, except when one of them found a dying human baby and couldn't walk away." Marcus felt Kervith's presence behind him, massive and protective. He felt the weight of the human fleet ahead, and he knew what he had to do. "I'll be your bridge," he said, "between humanity and the Drazithians, between what we are and what we could become. But on one condition, no more abandoning those who need us. No more choosing who deserves to survive. We're better than that. We have to be." The Admiral was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded, tears freezing on his weathered face. "Agreed. Welcome home, Marcus. However you define home now." Marcus looked back at Kervith, then forward at the human ships. He stood between 2 worlds, belonging fully to neither, but carrying the best of both. "Home," he said softly, "is wherever you choose not to abandon your family." 5 years later, Marcus Chin walked the corridors of the first human Drazithian embassy, built on Borati's Prime. He taught orphan children and outcast adults that survival meant more than just staying alive. It meant keeping your humanity even when humanity had failed you. In the deep ice, Kervith watched his adopted son with pride. The flame in the frost still burned bright, warming 2 civilizations with its light. And on a memorial wall outside the embassy, a simple inscription read, "They left him behind. He came back anyway. Not for revenge, but for connection. That was a human way. After all, to survive, to adapt, to reach across the darkness and refuse to let go."